Stephen, Hanna, thank you so much for joining me here for a little chat about your new book.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. So do you want to tell me a little bit about your new book and how it kind of came about and everything? Well, first of all, the Causeway Coast. I do have a copy here. I'll just kind of hold up to kind of show you what that's all about. First of all, it looks fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so, what was the inspiration?
So the coastline is my massive passion. I'm a landscape and a wedding photographer, but shooting landscapes is a huge passion, but in particular the Causeway Coast. And I guess that's where I spend a lot of my free time, is kind of walking the coast and out in all hours, kind of photographing it and trying to photograph areas that maybe haven't been covered before. So obviously I do enjoy shooting the tourist places and the kind of the tourist hotspots, which obviously the likes of Game of Thrones have made hugely popular. But I do like to get off the beaten track a little bit and kind of visit the places that maybe not too many people actually know about.
Cool. Well, like a lot of people know that Northern Ireland is incredibly beautiful, and so I guess obviously this is where you call home, so that's obviously why you're passionate about it as well. But obviously you've done a lot of travel and you've been to different places. How does Northern Ireland and for example the Causeway Coast compare to some of those other places that you've actually visited?
To me, the Causeway Coast is very unique because it has so much stuff. So it's got castles, it's got harbours, it's got obviously the Giant's Causeway, which is famous worldwide. So there's loads of variety, and to me it's probably, certainly the northern section of it is probably one of the nicest coastlines I think I've ever visited. So you can see why it's hugely popular with the tourists now.
Okay, and so like that kind of passion for the Causeway Coast, when did that kind of start? Was that like something that, I mean, do you remember being a kid and kind of being brought to those places? Where did that kind of wonder and the first kind of interest?
Yeah, so I talk about it a little bit in the book at the start, but yeah, I've really fond memories of going to Portrush when I was probably not even a teenager, and that's where we spent our summer holidays in a caravan. So even from back then, I always had this draw to the sea and to the beaches and the coastline. So it just has so many amazing memories, and now being obviously a photographer, it's kind of I've just kind of brought that into my photography now, and it's nice to revisit places. And even when I go back to certain places, it kind of, I relive some of those memories from my childhood, which you obviously can't get back again. So it's nice to kind of, think back on those times. And obviously when you're out in the beauty of all of that and the fresh air, it's amazing. It's a really nice way to de-stress and chill out a little bit as well.
Cool. And this isn't your first book, right?
It's not. It's my fourth book.
Wow.
So the other books I've done, I think I just look back, it was maybe 2008, 2009 was the first one that I did, which was on County Antrim, so that was covering the whole of the county. So there was a little bit of coastal stuff in it, but there was also a lot of stuff from just inland, so it was kind of covering the whole of the county. I've also done a book on the Mournes, and I've done a book on the Glens of Antrim. But this is probably the one I'm most excited about because it's on the coast and it's all coastal. So as I say, this is my passion, so this is I kind of think the one that I'm really excited to get out there.
Cool. And so where did that passion come from? Obviously, I know you personally as a friend, but you're obviously a photographer. You do a lot of weddings. You do a ton of weddings, so you're shooting loads and loads of weddings. So has the landscape thing always kind of been in the background, or what's your first kind of passion? Yeah,
so probably some people that maybe know my story a little bit, that was how I got into photography, was landscapes. I think it was back, I don't know, 15 odd years ago, maybe more, where I got a little point and shoot camera, and I just immediately went out and just started shooting scenery and nature and whatever I could get. And really it was the landscapes that kind of clicked with me. And it's kind of just grown from there. As you say, I do shoot weddings. I shoot a lot of weddings in the year. Thankfully that side of the business is really busy, but this I guess is my getaway part of it, where there's a little bit less pressure, and you can kind of just switch off and actually take your time. As you know, wedding days are extremely frantic and just it's go, whereas this is the complete opposite. It's more, a lot of it is patience, and it's just waiting about for the light, and you just get to spend time out in nature, and switch off a little bit, I guess, and it's a good therapy.
I mean, it was interesting, like obviously we recorded a class with you last year for Engage, where basically got to spend the day with you, kind of seeing behind the scenes on one of these shoots. And well, first of all, you get up so early in the morning. I can't remember what time we met. It was definitely dark.
It was probably around 3, half 3 in the morning, I think, at that time of the year.
I know you're a big fan of coffee, and coffee's your friend. Obviously, you need that to kind of manage to stay up. And on that occasion, we shot right through until, you know, later on in the afternoon. I think I had to leave a little bit early because I was struggling. But I mean, is that part and parcel? You know, if you want to be a landscape photographer, do you need to be like up a kind of cockcrow every morning, and kind of even before cockcrow, just you know, what is that part of the whole process?
Absolutely. With landscape photography, to get the best light, you have to be either up really early or out really late. So you're working around the time at sunrise or at sunset, and really that's the best way to improve your landscape photography, is to get up or to stay out late and shoot around those times. If you're shooting during the day, your images are going to probably look quite flat. But what you need to be doing is getting up early in the morning or late in the evening, shooting in that lovely golden light. So it's kind of like a few minutes after sunrise or a few minutes before sunset, and that's when the best light is. So that's when I like to get out and shooting. And it can be a little bit unsociable with the hours, because it can be the really, really early starts. So usually I like to allow a bit of time to get on location, so you're kind of arriving maybe before sunrise, so you're arriving in the dark. And you're kind of pre-planning and making sure you know where you're going and all that kind of thing. So it's not always a case of just turning up and hoping for the best. There's a little bit of planning goes on to it as well.
Yeah, because I know, like when we did the class, you were talking a lot about apps and things like that. Like obviously there's things that you can utilize to somehow kind of plan, but also there's a little element of kind of not knowing what's going to happen. Because I remember on the morning that we shot that section, you were saying that, you know, the sun could come up and it could be incredible. Or it could come up and it could just be, you know, not fantastic. And so it's kind of, you really don't know. So is that a case then of just having to kind of show up, make sure you're there enough times that when it is that incredible sunset or sunrise or whatever, that you're there?
It's definitely a case of perseverance, without a doubt, for landscape photography. There's a lot of locations that I visit, and I've gone back 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 times before I've actually got a shot that I'm happy with, and that's all to do with the light and the weather. And yeah, we can check the apps, we can do as much research as we can to get to the location when we need to be at that time of year, but at the end of the day you're kind of at the mercy of the weather, really. So it's and I guess that's part of the enjoyment of it as well, because if it was just always going out in amazing light, you probably would get a little bit complacent and take it for granted, whereas it's probably the frustrations that actually make the good times really, 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 really special, you know. So
obviously living in Northern Ireland, like the weather here is incredibly unpredictable. Like we get everything from like crazy rain to like sun once in a while, not very often. Does that make for a more kind of dynamic and interesting kind of landscape, I guess, to shoot?
Yeah, absolutely. People that follow me on YouTube on my vlogs will probably know one of my pet hates is blue sky, and it doesn't really do anything for me when I'm out shooting. So definitely dramatic cloud, moody skies, maybe shafts of light coming through. That's definitely for me the most exciting times to be out shooting landscapes, because you don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes it might only be 10, 15 seconds of light, and you just need to be in position and to be waiting for the light to hit, because whenever you do get that little pocket of light, it's going to be really, really beautiful and really dramatic. So yeah, probably the weather, it does frustrate us, but it probably does work in our favour at times as well, just to make our images. I think if we were to just be out shooting all the time in lovely conditions, it would probably be a bit boring as well.
Well, I mean, it's something that, landscape, you talked earlier on about the solitude, and that's something that kind of interests me, because I don't have a whole lot of solitude in my life in terms of doing weddings and everything that we're doing. It's always super busy, but I think there's a lot of people there would really like the idea of just kind of heading out there. It must be so quiet when you're out there early in the morning, and just being able to kind of watch the kind of sky light up. I mean, I'm sure you've had some incredible experiences. I know you kind of link some of that to your faith and stuff as well, don't you?
I do. Yeah, to me my faith's important, and just being out to kind of experience creation and enjoy all of that on your own, it's amazing. And sometimes when you're standing on a cliff somewhere and it's just you by yourself and you've got this beautiful sunrise or sunset, it is very special, and it is a really good way of, as you say, kind of just decluttering. And you're around people all the time, so just to get out on your own is pretty amazing sometimes, and just breathe it all in, because there's so much we take for granted here, especially along our coastline. And I think that's something I hope to get across in the book, that there are so many places we can visit. And you know, people talk about going to all these other countries, to Iceland, and all these places now are becoming really popular, and they are stunningly beautiful, but we have so much on our doorstep which we do take for granted. So hopefully the book will be a way of maybe inspiring people to get out and to walk the coastline, I guess.
Cool. I mean, you did talk about Game of Thrones, and you mentioned Game of Thrones because that's made the north coast of Northern Ireland very famous, because a lot of the stuff's been filmed around there. I mean, a couple of different questions, like what's your favourite locations that have been featured in the show? Obviously there's a few that are really famous now, and people will maybe not know the name, but when they see the place they will know it, right?
Probably the biggest one is Ballantoy. It's been featured in it quite a bit, and the secret little beach down at the side of it has been used in it quite a few times, and that's probably one of the places I love to go, because I can shoot from the one location. I can shoot sunset or sunrise pretty much. So it's lovely, because whenever you're going to those places, you do need to be visiting them first thing in the morning or late at night, because they become so popular now with tourists. There's usually loads of coaches and there's loads of people visiting during the day. So if you do want to do any kind of landscape photography, it's not really going to work at midday, whenever the places are really busy with the tourists. So that's another bonus of being up first thing in the morning. You're probably not going to get too many tourists around at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. in the morning. Yeah,
because it's starting to get busy now, right? There's a lot of people getting into it. Well, I also, like we were chatting before we started here about you've recently changed away from Canon, and you're now a Fuji shooter.
Yes.
So what was kind of the process or the thought process behind that?
So yeah, like I've loved my Canon gear. I've been shooting for probably over 15 years with Canon, so I had quite a lot of stuff built up. But I had slowly been starting to become intrigued by the Fuji mirrorless system and the X series stuff, and I had used an X-T1 for some wedding work, and I upgraded it to the X-T2, and I was just completely blown away by just the improvement and the quality that was coming from the X-T2. Just so much so that it started to get me thinking about, could I actually use this professionally for all of my work? And slowly over the last few months, that's what I've done, and I've integrated it into it, and I've gone completely 100% Fuji now. So all my Canon gear, bar one, have gone on eBay and have all been sold, and I'm shooting completely Fuji now. So I've been using the X-T2 and their X Pro 2, and recently I got to test out the GFX 50, which is their medium format camera, which Fuji very kindly sent to me to try, and it was just phenomenal, the quality of it. So I've been really pleased with the new system, and I think it's quite intriguing as a landscape photographer to be shooting on the Fuji, because everybody seems to be going down the route of Canon or Nikon or Sony, and I've adopted the Fuji system, and I've definitely no regrets so far.
Yeah. And it's a bit lighter anyway, I guess, if you're traveling around and stuff like that. Well, that's cool.
I think one of the turning points for me was a recent trip to Glencoe, where I had a massive rucksack full of Canon gear, and I'd been away for 2 or 3 days, and I came home and I was just completely knackered with the amount of weight that I carried about, and that was when I really started to think, okay, there's got to be lighter options out there. So definitely that was a major selling point of the Fuji stuff, was the size and the weight of it.
Cool. Well, obviously there'll be some photographers tuned into this today, and so if they were going to go out tomorrow morning, and not necessarily in Northern Ireland, but wherever they are in the world, and get up sunset and go out and shoot their first landscape, what will be your top few tips?
Firstly, probably do your research as to where you're going to be going. One of the things about the Causeway coast in particular I've learned is there's
Yeah, cool. Stephen, thanks so much. So obviously if people want to find out what this is all about, the Causeway Coast, how can they pick this up if they want to?
So at the moment it is available on the likes of Amazon, it's available in Waterstones as well, but you can purchase it directly from my own website, which is just stephenhannalandscapes.co.uk.
Cool. Some incredible images here, and then you do workshops as well, so people are photography related and want to come over to Northern Ireland and take on the workshops. You do quite a few workshops.
Yep, so this year's workshops have all sold out again, so I will be releasing 2018 workshops probably over the next month or so, and again a lot of them will be featuring the Causeway Coast as well as the locations. So yeah, workshops are available.
Okay, Stephen, thanks very much for taking some time out to chat this, and wish you all the best for your new book.
Thank you.